Greek prosody, the structure of poetic lines, is based on the combination of long and short syllables. Some verse forms are composed of lines made up in feet, others of repeated patterns of lines containing sequences of longs and shorts. A syllable's length depends on the number and types of vowels and consonants in it. A syllable is considered long if it contains a long vowel, contains a diphthong, two vowels making one sound. It ends in two consonants, which are not necessarily in the same word, or is the last syllable of a line. Otherwise, it is short. In poetic rhythm, a long syllable takes about twice as long to say as a short syllable, much like quarter notes and eighth notes in music. Long syllables are not necessarily accented. Try to retain the stress accent of each word on its usual syllable while giving long syllables their full rhythmic value. Some syllables are not pronounced and therefore don't count in the rhythm. This is called elision. A syllable is elided, or not pronounced, if it is the last syllable of a word and it ends in a vowel, a diphthong, am, em, or um, and the next word begins with a vowel, diphthong, or an h. The consonant which begins the syllable is pronounced, even though the vowel is elided. At the senior level, oral readers at the Classics Conference recite passages in verse. In a poetic rhythm, a long syllable takes about twice as long to say as a short syllable, much like quarter notes and eighth notes in music. Long syllables are not necessarily accented. Try to retain the stress accent of each word on its usual syllable while giving long syllables their full rhythmic value. Latin and Greek epic poetry was composed in a meter called Dactylic Hexameter. Its name shows its composition of 6 feet of dactyls or spondees. A dactyl, from the word finger in Greek, is composed of a long followed by 2 shorts. Long, short, short. A spondee is composed of 2 longs. Long, long. The 6th and last foot in a line is always a spondee. The 5th foot is almost always a dactyl. The first 4 feet vary between dactyls and spondees. Another common type of meter is the elegiac couplet. This meter is based on dactyls and spondees as well. The first of the 2 lines in a couplet is a simple dactylic hexameter line. The second line, which has 5 feet in total, has 2 dactylic feet at the beginning, then half a spondee followed by a caesura, or a break, 2 more dactylic feet followed by the rest of the spondee at the end. The second line thus has 5 feet. A third meter used at the Classics Conference is the hendecasyllabic Felician meter, which is 11 syllables in a set pattern of a spondee, then a choriamb, long, short, short, long, and then 5 beats, short, long, long, which gives in total long, 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 short, short, long, short, long, short, long, long.
Okay, so we're working on a senior Latin oral reading passage, and it's a dactylic hexameter passage from Ovid's Metamorphoses, the Arachne story. And I think you're familiar with this story?
Yes.
Okay. Right, so you actually get to look at some of it in Latin and see what Ovid does with it. So we have a few things to think about here. We want to obviously have correct Latin pronunciation. We also want to do the meter correctly, and we need to play off the syllable stresses in the Latin against the actual meter. Then obviously there's interpretation. You'll see there are different voices in the passage that you're going to want to think about, and we'll just do a few lines of it so that you can kind of get the hang of it, since you haven't done this passage before and you haven't worked that much on dactylic hexameter, at least since you took third year Latin.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's think first about pronunciation. And one of the things that we have to do if the macrons aren't provided for us is write them in so that we know which are the long and short vowels. So some dictionaries are better than others for doing this. Here are two good ones, the Oxford and the Langenscheidt, and the reason these are good is that they give you all the macrons in the words you look up, whether or not it makes a difference to whether the syllable is long or short. So we'll talk about long and short syllables in a minute. Let's just do some looking up of macrons. Now, macrons, in other words, long vowels can exist because they're there in the stem or because they're there in the ending. So if you know your charts well, then you will have memorized where the long and short vowels are in the charts. And on the other hand, for stems, you're going to usually have to look those up. So let's divide this up since we're somewhat pressed for time, but normally the student would look up all the macrons and then the teacher would just correct them if necessary. So why don't you start with the first line and I'll start with the second line and we'll check the stems and then we'll look at where they would also be in the endings. Okay. If the word isn't in its dictionary form, you look up the dictionary form and you're going to want to check, for example, all the principal parts of verbs, the nominative and genitive singular of nouns, so that you know where the macrons come in those different forms of the same word. Okay, now how about this? Is there a macron in this word?
In solo?
Yeah.
It sounds like there might be one on the O.
Mm-hmm. Okay, will there be a long or short A here?
Would it be long because it's second person?
This is actually the accusative plural feminine form of a participle. So will it be a long or short A?
Oh gosh.
I know it's been a couple of years.
Is it long?
Yes. Okay. How about here? Is this going to be a long or short E?
I want to say short.
So this is, again, an accusative plural.
So would it, oh, okay, does it matter whether it's masculine or feminine? Would they all just be long?
Yeah, so what declension does this word belong to?
Is it third?
Uh-huh. Okay, and you're right that the vowel before the RE in an infinitive, if its first conjugation, will be long, and so that's right. All right, good. And in fact, the only long vowel here is this one.
The I?
The I, yes. Now, as a matter of fact, I was able to figure out basically from the scansion of this line which were the long and short vowels. Sorry, there's another long vowel here on the I. Yeah, that's right. And that's because this is a dative singular, third declension noun, and so that I is always going to be long. So again, if you memorize your charts well or look them up, then you'll be able to figure those out. Okay, so let's just work on those first two lines. So do you remember how dactylic hexameter works?
Like, it's the first 5 feet can be like either long, long, or long, short, short.
That's right.
And the last...
In other words, spondies are dactyls.
Right. And then the last foot is always a spondee.
Mm-hmm. Two longs, that's right. Now, the fifth foot is almost always a dactyl in Latin, but it is occasionally spondee, and that's called a Greek line because that's much more common in Greek. All right, so let's see if we can now mark long and short syllables. So what makes a syllable long?
It has to do with whether the vowel is long or short, where you have like double consonants.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so talk me through it.
So
this is a long or short syllable?
That's a long syllable.
How do you know?
Because C and F are both consonants.
Okay, good. So it ends in two consonants, not necessarily in the same word. Good. How about the next syllable?
Also long because of the same thing.
Right. That's right.
And then again, long, long.
Mm-hmm. Good. So you're marking divisions between feet.
Would you align? You don't align this.
That's right. When would you align the UM?
Isn't if there's... Is it when there's a vowel next?
Yes. or a word starting with an H, which doesn't count as a consonant.
Okay, right. I couldn't remember if that applied to these as well.
No, V here is a consonant. Okay, that's right. Now, where is this short? Is it over the E or over the
Oh, sorry. So it's over the E.
That's right. So notice that the I here in Uwaba is counting as a consonant, not a vowel. Okay, good. How about the next line?
This should be, if it's a double vowel, it's a long vowel, right?
Sorry?
If it's a double vowel,
No, this is not a diphthong. So a diphthong would make a long syllable, but EI is a diphthong in Latin, but IE isn't.
Right. This is still long though here because of the
Yeah,
long
I'm
I.
sorry, it's actually a short vowel, I realize now. It has to be.
Yeah?
Yeah. Okay, very good. All right, now let's start by just reading this as if it were prose.
Nec facta solum vestes spectara juabat. Tam quoque confierent, tantus decor ad fuit arti.
Okay, very good. So now let's just clap the rhythm. So remember, spondies are going to go basically, and dactyls are. Okay, so let's do it. Good. Okay, so now you're going to read it concentrating on the meter and not worrying too much about the syllable stress, and then we'll put the two of them together.
Nec facta solum vestes spectare juabat.
Now don't shortchange your longs. So here, for example, and here, make sure those get the full length that they need.
Okay. Tam quoque confierent, tantus decor ad fuit arti.
Okay, very good. It's just this foot was a little off. Why don't you start at the beginning again?
From tongue or from neck? Okay.
Okay, very good. And you're already getting a lot of the right syllable stresses in. So now see if you can do the two lines with the right syllable stresses and the meter.
Nec facta solum vestes.
Okay, careful.
Nec facta solum vestes spectare juabat.
Okay, so these are all longs, right? There are a lot of longs in this line. It's tricky when you have that many longs because you don't want to have to take that long usually, but you do. So just take your time. Now let's think about interpretation. So one way you can work on interpretation is by reading the English out loud. Then we'll spend a little time matching up the translation with the Latin words so you know exactly which Latin words mean what. And we'll talk about how to break down the Latin into phrases and how you're going to want to interpret it. So why don't you pick one of these English translations? We've got two of them on this page. And just read me the first two lines.
Okay, let's go with this one.
Okay.
It was not only a joy to see the finished cloths, but also to watch them made. So much beauty added to art.
Okay, good. So you were excited about that, right? Okay, so you're going to want to get that into the Latin as well. Now let's match up the English words with the Latin words. So can you tell me what each of these Latin words mean? And remember that they won't necessarily match up exactly with the English translation.
As you say, so not only, I would assume it's just neck. No, nec solum.
Yes, that's right. So what is factas?
Would this be the finished?
Mm-hmm.
And then vestes is cloth.
That's right.
To see, and that would be a pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
But also,
Mm-hmm.
I guess tell me this.
Yeah, the chum here basically means but also when,
Okay.
but also at that point.
To watch them become. This isn't fieri to become.
Yes, that's right. So cum here with the subjunctive means
when.
Mm-hmm.
When they were made.
Being made, coming into existence, that's right.
So much, so great beauty added to art.
Yes, was added to art. Good. Okay, so let's think about phrasing. So punctuation is often a good guide to that. So where's your first phrase?
Well, I guess it's marked by the comma here. It wasn't, not only was it a pleasure to see the cloths made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm actually a little skeptical about this comma here. I'm not sure why it's there, because all this is really one phrase.
Oh yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
So should I just ignore the comma?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
I don't know, I guess because you've got all the long syllables too, it sort of feels like you have to say it kind of all in one breath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that takes some practice, just to get that all going smoothly on one breath. Now, what are the important words here, would you say, that you want to bring out?
I think spectare, like to watch, and the fact that it's like delightful to see them being made.
Mm-hmm.
But also maybe like what it is you're seeing made, so like the clothes or cloths.
Okay.
So I guess it might sound kind of weird, but to bring out the last three words in particular.
Okay.
But I would probably give the whole line like a very excited tone.
Okay.
I don't think excited is the right word. Just kind of like you're really interested in telling the story because this is such like an interesting and like wonderful scene.
Okay. So if you look at the first two lines, the contrast that's being pointed out.
Like in the meter or the actual content?
In the content. Though you're right, there is an interesting contrast in the meter as well. So what is the contrast in the meter?
You've got a lot of longs in the first line and a lot of spondies in the first line and a lot of dactyls in the second.
Mm-hmm. What's the effect of that, do you think?
I don't know, I kind of like it. I mean, it sort of makes you think when, when people told you stories when you were little and they started them, once upon a time. It gives you sort of this like long kind of drawn out, builds a little bit of suspense. It's like, okay, what is the story about? And then you get into sort of like the meat of it in the second line. And I guess it's sort of like, this is what's actually happening.
Okay, and yes, as you say, and as you did with your voice, it speeds things up when you have lots of dactyls. Now, in terms of the content, what's the contrast between the first two lines?
Well, the first line talks about the finished cloths, and then the second line talks about how it's also really cool to watch them being made because of the merging of art and beauty.
Okay, good. So what are the words that you want to focus on to bring out that contrast?
The tum quaqua, sort of, but also, probably not the most, emphatic word in the line, but I would definitely make sure that you sort of notice the but also part of the sentence.
Okay. Anything else?
I would bring out tantos, because it's a nice word to bring out, it sounds really nice, and it also sort of, if you're making this, because the statement is so much beauty added to art, and you already think of art as being, if not beautiful, at least powerful, so it's sort of an interesting, I think, word to bring out for that reason. So I guess, yeah, I'd bring out that for sure, and then probably also decor and arty, because those are the two things that are sort of being added or contrasted in a way.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. You might think also about these two words, the two F words, if you like, factas and fierent, because what are these two bringing out?
Okay, so factas is the finished cloths, and fierent brings out the fact that they're still being made.
Good. Okay, so now it takes quite a bit of practice to get all that in. So why don't you take a first couple of cracks at it and think about how you're going to get the syllable stresses and the meter and bring out those words that you think are most important.
Okay.
And if you like, you can forget about the meter to start with, and focus more on bringing out the words and the phrasing, and then you can go back to the meter when you think you're ready.
Nec facta solum vestes spectare juabat, tom quoque confierent, tantus decor adfud arti.
And as a matter of fact, you were doing the meter very well most of the time, and the only place where it broke down was here. And the rest of the time, you were actually doing the meter as well as just saying the words. So that was great. So why don't you try it again and just see if you can keep the meter in that part.
Nec facta solum veste spectare juabat.
So it's solum, right?
Solum. Nec facta solum veste spectare juabat. Tom quoque confierent, tantus decor adfud arti.
Great, yes, and you're getting lovely gestures in there too that are very suitable to what you're saying. Okay, they're coming along really well.
Can't assassin we are!